Welcome back again today. Thomas Sankara, the political leader of Burkina Faso in the 1980s, was born on December 21st, 1949, in Yako, a northern town in Upper Volta. Upper Volta is now the country of Burkina Faso in French West Africa. He was the son of a mother and father that were from two different ethnic groups within Burkina Faso, showing off the diversity of the country. He was the product of a mother and father from two different ethnic groups within the country of Burkina Faso. This would embody the diversity of the Burkina people. During his adolescence, Sankara witnessed the country's independence from France in 1960 and the turbulent, repressive regimens of the 1960s and 1970s. Decades of French colonial rule had left Upper Volta among the poorest, least urbanized, and least developed in Africa. The territory was valued mainly for its cotton-growing land and labor force, with little investment in infrastructure, economic development, or the health and education of the people. Independence in 1960 brought minimal change, marked instead by political instability and successive coups. From 1970 to 1973, Sankara attended the military academy in Anti-Imperialism, Madagascar, where he trained as an army officer. In 1974, as a young lieutenant in the Upper Volta Army, he fought in a border war with Mali, returning home as a hero. Sankara later studied in France and Morocco, where he met Blaise Compaoré and other students from Upper Volta who would later form leftist organizations in the country. While commanding the Commando Training Center in Po in 1976, Sankara grew popular by encouraging his soldiers to assist civilians with their tasks. He also played guitar at community gatherings with local bands. Throughout the 1970s, Sankara increasingly adopted leftist politics. He organized the Communist Officers Group in the army and attended meetings of various leftist parties, unions, and student groups, often in civilian clothes. Briefly served as the Secretary of State for Information. This newly formed group, known as Military Committee for Reform and Military Progress, or CMRPN, would be a group of officers who had recently seized power. In April 1982, he resigned and denounced the CMRPN. After another military coup, which would place the Council for the People's Safety in power, Sankara was appointed Prime Minister in 1983, but was quickly dismissed and placed under house arrest, leading to a popular uprising. On August 4th, 1983, Blaise Compaoré orchestrated the August Revolution, a coup d'etat against the Council for the People's Safety. The new regimen, called the National Council for Revolution, or CNR, made 34-year-old Thomas Sankara president. The coup by Sankara's National Council of Revolution, or CNR, initially appeared to some as just another military takeover. Although Sankara was an army captain and key colleagues were also officers, they overthrew a previous military junta as part of a broad coalition of leftist political groups. Also, other groups that would be included would be trade unions, the student movement, and other civil activists. The CNR and its cabinet were hybrid institutions drawing from various societal sectors, gaining strong support from the youth, the poor, and other marginalized groups. Sankara and the CNR aimed to fundamentally transform the country, symbolized by renaming it Burkina Faso, meaning the Republic of Honorable People. They restructured state institutions, combated corruption, curbed elite privileges, ended corruption, promote reforestation, avert famine, supported women's rights, developed rural areas, and prioritized education and healthcare. Government ministers had their salaries and bonuses cut, and limousines taken away as well. Sankara declared all his assets publicly and kept his children in public schools. Sankara also sold off the government fleet of Mercedes-Benz cars and made the Renault 5, the cheapest car sold in Burkina Faso at the time, the official service car of the ministers. He would reduce the salaries of well-off public servants, including his own. He also redistributed the land from the feudal landlords to the peasants. Wheat production increased from 1,700 kilograms per hectare, or 1,500 pounds per acre, to 3,800 kilograms per hectare, or 3,400 pounds per acre, making the country food self-sufficient. Sankara's agenda also included countering external domination, building national unity, developing the economy, and addressing pressing social issues like hunger, disease, and literacy. Environmental sustainability was a priority as well, because this country is an arid country, and this would lead to initiatives such as digging new wells, building reserves, combating soil erosion, and planting millions of trees. Burkina Faso also led in advancing women's rights, with literacy classes, maternity training, support for cooperatives, and a new family code addressing marriage, divorce, and inheritance rights. Women were appointed as judges, province high commissioners, directors of state enterprises, and even cabinet ministers. Internationally, Burkina Faso's policies shifted sharply away from Western powers towards revolution and nationalist movements across the global South. Sankara's bold stances at international gatherings, such as the UN, Non-Aligned Movement, and Organization of Africa Unity, or OAU, elevated Burkina Faso's voice on global issues. His confrontational approach, like challenging the French on policies towards Africa and African immigrants, earned him administration and criticism. Sankara's foreign policy goals included asserting the Burkina Faso's sovereignty, establishing relationships with any state, supporting oppressed peoples and liberation movements, and promoting genuine Pan-African unity through concrete actions rather than declarations. In 1984, Sankara's visit to the UN General Assembly included a stop in Harlem, where he connected with an African-American audience, asserting that from Africa's revolutionaries, our White House is in Black Harlem. His UN speech criticized U.S. policies and affirmed solidarity with revolutionary movements, for example, in Nicaragua, further straining relationships with Washington. Despite his Pan-Africanism, Sankara had few allies among African heads of state, whom he often criticized for not doing more for African unity and development. His calls for supporting liberation movements and repudiating Africans' foreign debt were bold but largely unheeded by other leaders. His vocal stance against apartheid and advocacy for a united front against foreign debt created tension with neighboring countries like Mali, Togo, and Cote d'Ivoire, leading to conflicts and eventual assassination. On October 15, 1987, Sankara was assassinated in a coup led by his friend Captain Blaze. This was driven by internal political rivalries, anti-corruption measures threatening illicit dealings, and external pressures from countries like France and Cote d'Ivoire. Compaoré's regimen also killed 12 other officials, reversed most of Sankara's policies, aligning close with Western powers and using brutal force to maintain power for 27 years. Despite repression, Sankara's legacy persisted, resurfacing as popular discontent grew. Symbols of Sankara became prominent during protests against Compaoré, culminating in his ousting in 2014. A transitional government would form, with elections held in 2015. Sankara's influence remained more significant in ideas than practical politics, as his supporters were fragmented. Judicial inquiries into Sankara's assassination led to trials and convictions. Activists would urge continued investigation into possible international involvement. The new leadership, under Captain Abraham Traoré, invoked Sankara's legacy for political legitimacy and popular mobilization. Long celebrated by radical youths and activists across Africa, Thomas Sankara finally received governmental recognition in Burkina Faso on the 36th anniversary of his assassination in a military coup. For years, civil and political groups inspired by his revolutionary achievements would organize the commemorations of his death. However, on October 15th, 2023, Burkina Faso's ruling military regimen, seeking popular support, officially recognized the anniversary for the first time. Sankara was declared a hero of the nation. The day was designated a national holiday, and President Abraham Traoré would lay flowers at his memorial site. One of the capital's main streets would also be renamed in his honor, replacing the street's name, which was named after the French president Boulevard Charles when Burkina Faso gained independence from France. Please like and subscribe, turn on the bell notification so you get all my videos. Add me on all social medias, and until next time, peace, one love.